Greetings, Minecrafters, and welcome to another thrilling conversation, Minecraft conversation, on all things well being. My name is Dr. Kimberly Quinn, and I'm here today to sort of help people learn to become the boss of their brains because it's all about thought control, largely about thought control, because thoughts come first and feelings come second, and then actions or behaviors third. So, since thoughts dictate our lives, it makes sense that we control what comes in, right? Because what comes in, stays in until we decide otherwise. And so, obviously, if we're walking around thinking angry thoughts, we feel angry, etc., and so on. And so, today, I would like to, bring this into the fact that the pandemic is almost over, sort of, kind of, not sure, right? And we're all walking around like we're in the twilight zone. And so today's discussion is on after the storm, and it's interesting because I was having a chat with two of my colleagues yesterday. It came up, and one of them just who appears very fine was just saying, I just want to say to the two of you, I'm not okay. I'm not okay because I've been just clipping along, through this whole thing, and um, she's very active on campus and this and that, and just talking about how we've just we've been going for so long on this, whatever we want to call it, like pandemic autopilot, pandemic pilot, I don't know, and now it's kind of like the storm is kind of sort of winding up, though we're not sure because it's that whole thing. It's over, but it's not. And we're finding ourselves, I guess, in a situation where we thought this was going to be a sprint way back in March of 2020. And then there's like some joker moved the finish line back and it turned into a marathon. And now we thought the marathon was over and it's turned into an ultra. I mean, it's so crazy. And so, it's interesting because again, just having this conversation yesterday, and the other colleague that was with us was saying the same thing. And interesting because other colleagues, same place, Champlain, only, just maybe a few weeks prior, it's all very close together. We've been talking about the time discontinuancy thing. And with me being in the Fast Mind Club, like I have that anyway. But I just kind of figure, oh, maybe it's just me. And I've been saying to a bunch of colleagues, they're like, no, it's not just you. It's we say, oh yeah, last summer when I did, oh wait, that was the summer before last summer. And we stop and think because the Rona virus situation has really thrown our, our ability to like for the placeholders, things we've done, things we've said, family events, things have done with friends, and we are having a difficult time telling if that was this summer, the summer before this summer, and that's true for like just weeks and months, and it's just it's all blending. And so anyway, I was reading this article in Breathe magazine called "After the Storm," and it's interesting. This is the 2021 version here. After the storm, and they say in times of crisis or prolonged pressure can bring a period of intense, nonstop action. But what happens when the weather breaks? And this is so true because I mean you can fill in the blank with something other than the pandemic if you've had some other big stress or trauma going on. But I know it's been definitely true with the Rona is like again the analogy or metaphor of the track or marathon really, and moving the finish line back is we've been in this non-stop, like pivot, move, more news. Then with the vax, and then vax had issues, and now the boosters and who's getting it and who isn't, da 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 da, and all the numbers and the hospitals and those who aren't vaxxed are taking up the hospitals, and it's just constant, 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 constant. And we've been holding it together because we've had to, but in a twilight zone kind of out of it kind of way. And then adding to this, because you know how I feel about the universe kind of speaking to me. We all have these moments. These conversations were all really close together. One was hanging out with some professor friends about a month ago, what, the yesterday conversation. And then there was the last night conversation. I was on a call with friends, and I've got a friend who teaches middle school in New England, and she said, "Oh my gosh," I asked her how. I haven't spoken to her. I mean, I've a little bit, we texted and stuff, but I haven't spoken with her since school started. And I said, "How is school?" And an amazing human being. Went back to school to be a teacher when she already had a master's in something else, and she said, "Oh my God, Kim," she said, "I can't even tell you." And she said, it's just like they forgot. And that sixth or seventh grade, I forget, but middle school. And she said, it's just like they forgot how to behave in a classroom. And she loves what she does. And she said, think about it. They've been on a screen for school for, a year and a half. So when you're on the screen, you can put your camera on, you can just go get a drink, you can play a video game, you can text your friends, you can, do whatever on your phone and get up and down as you choose, right? Without any kind of structure, having to sit for longer than 3 minutes. And she said the whole class is like this. And the school, the system is maxed out with, because she said very few of them can even sit and do anything. So what do you do with that? You can't send the entire class to the principal or the entire class to have some sort of other consequence. And she said, we're only mid-October, and teachers and principals and everybody else who supports the faculty and everything are just absolutely overwhelmed, and it's only the middle of October. And then this also over the past couple weeks, I've had conversations. I've got friends who teach in early elementary school, in the younger grades, and I know in for one of them, or in her class, very few of the kids can read. Very few of the kids can read at all, and they're aware of it, and they want to, and there's almost some shame involved with that. And then we have also the being in structure again, just like my friend who teaches middle school. And this, it can be overwhelming, for the whole. And these are, these two or three, thinking of several of them, are just angels that fell from the clouds, just out there to make a difference, do all kinds of extra. They're those people. And for them to say they're overwhelmed, and how things are this stressful is a really huge statement. And so then Breathe Magazine goes on to say, stress is inevitable, right? Obviously. Prolonged periods of stress are also difficult to avoid, at least occasionally. But for many people, the light at the end of the tunnel is what keeps them powering through. If I can just nail what keeps what wait. If I can just nail this business proposal, someone might think, then I'll be able to slow down. Or perhaps I just need to get beyond this deadline. Then I can really enjoy my time off. And think about that, right? That chocolate chip cookie at the end, that light at the end of the tunnel. And again, it's that finish line thing, like just moving it back. And then we start to question, even those put together seasoned grown-ups start to question, is this ever going to end? Right? Is this ever going to end? And some level, like, what's this going to be like? And just like we were talking about with the happiness advantage, when we kind of have this formula going in our head, like once I check this box, I'll be happy. Once I check this box, I can then relax. So we keep pushing that envelope over the cognitive horizon, and that happiness, because we keep pushing it farther back, doesn't happen. And meanwhile, we've got all of our survival stuff going on, holding it together. Some of it conscious and some of it unconscious, because we're just in this mode right now. And it's creating, I think, a societal fatigue, societal burnout, while we are also pushing happiness right over the edge of the horizon. And it is concerning. And we're obviously in the middle school story, in the elementary story, it's talking about the teachers and administrators and and the kids. So the other flip side of that is the kids are also doing what they can to hold it together. And it's just a hot mess, for lack of a better way to say it. And then the Breathe magazine crew says, all too often, however, this longed for reprieve is marked not by beach cocktails nor leisurely walks and indulgent lunches, but by miserably burrowing under blankets surrounded by crumpled tissues. Limbs that should be aching from dancing, hiking, or long abandoned gym classes are just aching. A head that should perhaps be pounding for possibly excessive but hopefully enjoyable reasons is just pounding. And wow, this brings me back to the conversation I was talking about yesterday with my colleagues because in this person, this conversation, the people are active. We like to ski and run and do stuff. And when I actually told her, "Thank you for being so honest," because I thought I could relate to her too because she's thinking it's like what and she's very well being oriented. She carving out time for the run or the ski, and she said she finds herself kind of box checking, like now's the leisure time, check the box, and it's hard. It's been difficult for her, and which I could relate to too. To like, okay, now I'm skiing or now I'm running or now I'm walking or now I'm out in the leaves and the foliage, whatever, and it's not a complete letdown response like it used to be, like, fully relaxed and you go back and rejuvenated. It's more like we had this momentum going that's just this survival, stay with it, keep up the momentum because God forbid we slow down a little bit, we might crash and burn or something. I'm not really sure what the big fear is, but I get it. I totally got what she was saying. The walking in the woods is still fantastic, though it still feels like it's part of the big ocean wave. It's all one. It's strange. And then Breathe magazine continues. I first became aware of what's often referred to as the let or come down effect when I was at university. As exams approached, I'd approach study time with narrowed eyes and girded loins. I'd clear my social calendar, drink gallons of coffee, and burn the candle at both ends. Far from feeling exhausted, I would feel euphoric. Information pierced my mind and rooted itself in my psyche with startled clarity, lending itself to instant and perfect recall. I gobbled up words, pages, chapters. My highlighters uh, bathed knowledge in a rainbow color. Just as clear and colorful my mind was the prospect of the fun I was going to have once exams were over. Yet almost as soon as the timer had signaled the end of the final paper, I would find that a sense not of joyous relief, but of exhaustion and torpor would overcome me. The following week or even weeks would be spent not celebrating, but wallowing at home, feeling worse than dreadful. It was as if my stress had been a superhero's cloak, and once it had fallen to the ground, all my antagonists swarmed and conquered. Wow. So this just seems so relative, this after the storm thing, even with like the university example, that once we finally let down from anything, like again, fill in the blank, we crash. But what's happened with the pandemic is it's been like a lasagna noodle. Like we kind of come out, then back down, kind of come out, back down. But it's only a slight wave because there's been this slow burn of we know it's not okay and it's not okay indefinitely. So how do we really fully let down from that is really the question. And then Breathe magazine says, as fanciful as this sounds, it's not that far from the truth. According to experts, periods of intense stress cause the body to react by releasing protective hormones, which bolster the fight or flight response, which has helped humankind's survival for millennia, and also mobilize various security measures, keeping the antagonists, which could threaten that survival function, at bay. And we've talked about cortisol in previous episodes, and this is one of the main, the body's main stress hormones, and it's meant to cortisol is a good purpose, right? It's meant to keep us alive. So when the fight or flight response is flipped within the limbic system, the amygdala is in full tilt, looking around for every kind of threat. That's meant to last. Cortisol is meant to last in the body at the most about 3 hours because most threats, even as horrible as they are, most threats are done, kind of like within that amount of time. And so, and this can be triggered by not only the real threats outside of us, I don't want to say unreal, real threats created in our minds too. The brain doesn't know the difference. If somebody's, about to stab us from behind, or we're thinking about that in our heads, the threat circuit is still kicked into gear. And so what happens when the cortisol is in the body longer than 3 hours, what's meant to keep us alive wreaks havoc in the mind and body. And it's like the Terminator, the old movie with Sylvester. Not that's Arnold Schwarzenegger. Okay, Rambo. Either one doesn't matter. With Arnold Schwarzenegger or Sylvester Stallone with the semi-automatic weapon, the idea is the same. Is that it's going off, and it's there's a it also it kind of aims at the hippocampus, which is very involved in long-term memory, and it's just shooting it at it's firing away at very healthy neurons when it's, kind of still running wildly in the veins long after the threat is over. So it's no big surprise, that we feel like this hypervigilance that's again meant to keep us alive lingers and lingers and lingers and lingers. We end up kind of getting used to it and forgetting, it's called desensitized, obviously. We become desensitized and unaware that we are still, like in a foxhole looking for what's coming next because it becomes our everyday. So it's not as evident as, oh, I feel like I'm all jacked up and, ready for, because we don't even realize that we're doing that anymore. And this is largely the reason that, for the brain fog and for the fact that we are, we're still going about our day and our life, our business with partners and work and everything else, taking care of kids. And we're just not aware of this slow burn, ready stance that we're in. And then we find ourselves running and skiing like we were talking about. That it seems more like box checking because the brain knows we should do this, want to do this on some level, yet we can't quite totally let go, it's enough to relax to the level that we used to, because it's kind of like a soldier, who's put on guard duty overnight and they're exhausted and they're trying to fall asleep. So excuse me, excuse me. So the mind, starts to kind of go into a sleep because the guard is tired, right? The officer's tired, yet he or she or they keep one eye open, always looking for danger. And that's kind of where we're at right now as a society and world, I think, is that we're exhausted, yet we still have one eye open. And then Breathe Magazine says, as clever as our bodies and minds are at keeping us safe from harm, however, they are not always as savvy when it comes to differentiating between threats and appropriate responses. The result? When you let go and relax, so does your immune system. And everything that has been held at bay during that period of hypersecurity attacks. If you've been under pressure, we will often not have been looking after ourselves as best we might, explains psychologist and author Jessica Shivers. So our bodies will have been working extra hard to support our immune system. Once you stop, because the situation has eased, the chemicals in the body change, and that's when you may feel unwell. So that's the whole rest of it is eventually if you are able to relax to that degree, which I think most of us are not quite yet, then it's kind of like like the whole deck of cards or the whole house of cards just falls because it's been holding up the fort and keeping on watch like that soldier against the tree for so long that at a certain point it gives in. Then I like how, I guess because I'm a runner, we're kind of a running family. I like the analogy that Breathe Magazine makes about not just leading up to a race, but also when a marathon is over, because this is really kind of, I think, what we all need right now, myself included. And they say, as well as mitigating stress while you're going through it, it also needs to be managed when it's diminishing. Consider the crash after consuming a lot of sugar. It's perfect for Halloween time right now. Or how training plans build in a tapering off before race day. Or, for example, how a couch to 5K program demands a gradual buildup. Equally, the journey back down from peak stress to normal requires incremental decreases. I really like that because I think, honestly, this is what's happening because, so many of us don't even know there's no blueprint for this, right? We've been going for 2 years, with all this unpredictability and all this, just uncertainty with so much that I think we really could use sort of some sort of help with a plan with how to deal with the change in our stress level now that we are winding down. Marathon training plans, for example, advise periods of walking and slow, short runs in the days following the event. In the same way, says Jessica, look for opportunities to keep going rather than just stopping. This is, at least for me, is timely because our oldest daughter just ran a marathon Sunday, and our oldest son is running a marathon this Sunday. And our daughter's actually run a few of them. She's 28. She's loving it. She's right in the peak of it all. And she came back and she had, the usual kind of lactic acid buildup and things. And she doesn't like, when it, slows her down a couple of days afterwards. And she admitted she has to walk and stretch and do all this stuff because, it's crampy when you come out of a marathon. And, this was just this week. And so this is making a lot of sense to me. And also I did one myself years ago with that daughter when she was only 17, actually. And I remember, you know, because that kind of the crampiness on that level is different from like doing a 5K or something. But you really, really do have to, do a gentle, gradual, wind down for the next. For me, it was a week because, of course, I think I was 47 at that time. Whatever the math is on that. And you for like I did for a whole week, I had to do walks and you had to rub your legs, and there's a whole coming out of it that I think is very, very, metaphorical for what we're dealing with a pandemic because it has been, again, not just a marathon, but an ultra marathon because, the finish line kept moving back. And I think we really need to actually not just be an autopilot, we need to have an actual plan for, how to enter back in the game and so that we're able to allow ourselves to fully relax on the level that we need in order to fully rejuvenate. And so obviously, awareness is key here, just like anything else we talked about. We can't do what we don't know. And we've also talked about, listening to ourselves and having a conversation with ourselves just as we would a partner or a best friend. Because we're so used to just putting one foot in front of the other and keeping on going, which because we've had to. And now it's time to really kind of get real with ourselves and come up with some kind of plan, for like, pandemic recovery, I guess we could call it, for lack of a better way to say it. And while we learning to manage stress and big stress while we're still experiencing it is huge. It's a good skill to have because in doing so, we can, prevent, kind of like whatever the mental, example would be for, a complete lactic acid buildup in the legs after a marathon. The massaging and the slow walks and then eventually short runs, and really kind of bring ourselves back down and then to a lovely place of homeostasis where I think we would all really like to be right now. And what a great place to wind up. So this is Kimberly Quinn signing off from Northern Vermont. Have a mindful day.